Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live with Cami. This is Cami Wanis, the Freedom Scholar. I am so excited to be with you all here today. This is such an amazing time for us. We are just we're having a crazy world today where everything is changing all the time. And it's changing so incredibly fast that it's difficult for us sometimes to keep up, especially when, technology is changing and, the workplaces are changing, especially in the last few years. So we need our kids to be competitive and be set up for success in whatever they plan on doing in the future. That is the number one thing I hear from parents all the time when I'm talking to them. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the key to setting your kids up for their future success. That is absolutely the number one thing that I hear from parents every single time I talk to them. And I'm so excited about it because it is exactly my entire philosophy is what I'm going to share with you today, wrapped up in one little teeny tiny couple of words or two teeny tiny couple of words. Okay. So we're going to talk about how to keep your kids relevant, how to keep them competitive, and how to keep them really succeeding and driving and working hard, right? There's a whole bunch of things that we talked about in our Facebook group in the last couple days about the keys to homeschool success or the keys to future success that we can teach our kids in homeschool. And so this was really exciting because we had a lot of responses and I'm going to share those with you in just a second. But you guys, that's why you need to message me because we need to get this down for you guys. I'm so excited about this because it's really about creating lifelong learners. If you agree with me, send me a message. If you want that for your kids, send me a message. Send me a message on Facebook, send me a message on Instagram, The Freedom Scholar. You guys know how to get a hold of me, or definitely book a call with me at thefreedomscholar.com because we need to talk about this and set you up for success. Because here's the thing, I took a poll, or kind of like I just asked people to just say one thing that kids need, one skill that kids need for future success. And they came up with amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. So we're going to see together what those things are. So it was discernment, which you totally agree, right? Discernment, our kids need to be discerning in the world. They need to understand when to say things, when not to say things, how to say things, right? Things to focus on, things not to focus on. Compassion, of course, we want our kids to be compassionate. So those in our Facebook group said, our kids need to be compassionate. I love that. I love that. Work ethic, absolutely work ethic. I mean, our kids need to know that they have to work hard. Succeeding takes hard work. It absolutely is hard work. And then tenacity. I was thinking about that lately a lot because tenacity is not just overcoming, it's not just resilience, it's more than that. It's more like I will until I will until. And I love that kind of attitude. We've been talking a lot about that in our household lately. I'm going to tell you about that more in a second. But another thing they said was soft professional skills. I love that. Oh my gosh. How many people do we know need some tact, know how to communicate with people in a proper way and respectful manner, right? So soft professional skills are really important, interpersonal skills, right? And then computer skills, self-confidence. Self-confidence is key, right? There's a great book that just came out. My son just started reading it. I got him a copy and me a copy. It's called Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. And I watched this whole day. Literally, it was like 18 hours or something like that. Maybe I think it was 13 hours of just amazingness that she had guest speakers on all day long to talk about this book and to also talk about being worthy, the idea of being worthy. And it was really incredible. They were like the top speakers of like the top motivational leadership, professional self-development. I mean, just amazing people. So awesome. So the book's called Worthy, by the way. Totally recommend it. And working with your hands was something else they said. So working with your hands is very important because it's really something that a lot of us are kinesthetic learners, and a lot of us need to understand how to work with our hands. We need to know how to do some of the skills that are out there in the world, and just to have the ability to do stuff for ourselves. I mean, that's really important, right? And then patience. Like, here's an example, by the way, before when talking about the working with your hands, I seriously would love to learn how to woodwork. Not crazy woodworking. I don't want to do it as like a profession or anything, but I want to know how to build stuff for myself because it's so expensive to do stuff like that. I was like, why can't I just throw some boards together and like figure it out? Like cut some boards, throw it together. How hard can it be? Okay, those of you that are woodworkers, I know it's completely a lot harder than that, but I mean, in my mind, that's what I'm thinking to myself, right? I want to create a window box in my window cabinets, like a bench underneath a window seat in my living room, and I've wanted that forever since we moved in. But I need to know how to work with wood, right? So that's something I totally have always wanted to learn how to do. Working with my hands, though, I love building stuff, right? Patience. We all need patience. I need a little more of it sometimes than perhaps than I have. So I'm working on that, right? We're all working on that. Discipline. I agree that some people said discipline is really important. We've been talking about that a lot in terms of self-discipline. Self-discipline is very, very, very important for future success. Kindness. That kind of goes with the compassion thing, but also giving kindness, right? I love that. And kindness to ourselves. We need that too. One of the things somebody said was critical thinking. Critical thinking, oh my gosh, today more than ever, right? Critical thinking. What's real, what's not? How does it compare to, such and such, and the other information? How does it compare to our values and our morals and our what we know to be true? How does it compare with, you know with all these different sources? What's the truth in all of these, right? Somebody else said the same thing, differentiating truth from lies. That's a very difficult skill, especially nowadays with all the more information we have out there. So how do we differentiate that? So I love that, and that kind of goes with discernment too. Somebody said resilience, and I love that because you get knocked down, you got to get up again, right? What's the song, right? Get knocked down, got to get up again. So resilience is super important. We have to teach our kids resilience when they fail, and we're going to talk about this in a second. I'm going to give you an example of what's happening in my house right now. But resilience is so important. When you get knocked down, when you knock yourself down, you got to get back up. You got to get back up. Problem solving is also another one. Problem solving is so important. And that's something our kids can do at little ages, very young ages. Communication, obviously, we need to learn how to communicate in lots of different ways, whether it be interpersonally through speaking or body language or online or texting or emailing or just whatever. We have to learn, or writing, right? We have to learn how to communicate. And then adaptability and flexibility, somebody said. I think that's a really great skill for the future because we have to be adaptable. There's so much changing in the world all the time. Like I was saying before, it's a completely, we're kind of like on a really steep upward curve of just change happening rapidly, right? So we have to be flexible. She also said flexible. So I love that too. Flexibility and adaptability. And then flexibility with ourselves too sometimes, right? I mean, that's a really important skill. So, and to differentiate truth from lies, we talked about, and then belief in themselves, belief in themselves. That actually, and the mom that said this, she's like, you can learn this, and you actually can. That book, Worthy, I definitely do recommend that. It's great. You can believe in yourself and learn to believe in yourself. And then daily skills and life skills was something that somebody else said, and I believe that too. So you remember when like you were in college, you went to college, and like some kids didn't know how to do laundry, or they didn't know how to cook anything, and like you're like, come on, dude, come on, just make something here. We got to learn some life skills. Some of the things that weren't mentioned that I think are really important are creativity, ingenuity, and initiative or hunger. That self initiative, that hunger for more, hunger for excellence, hunger. And I would add excellence as maybe even a separate category, a separate skill. Excellence, just a standard of excellence, right? We're doing a lot of talking about that in our house right now. Oh my gosh, you guys, it is super, super cool. And so, you guys, if you're watching this on Facebook or if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and put in the comments one thing you think is an important skill. Could be something we already talked about, but it could be something different. And if you're listening to this on our podcast, make sure you're thinking about what are some other skills that I think my kids should have. And then I'm going to give you the key to learning all of these things, okay? Because there's a way that we can tie them all together and learning all of them over time, right? Because we're not all going to learn them right away. It's not something we're born with necessarily, right? Some of them are, but some of them aren't, right? So, I think hunger for learning, we're definitely like born for with that, but then it gets mixed up a lot of times with box checking. You guys, I just did a conference yesterday, a homeschool conference talk, and I talked about box checking versus lifelong learning. So we talked about stop being a box checker and start inspiring lifelong learning. And it's really something that's what inspired me to talk to you about this today, because it's so important for us to think about this. If you don't have lifelong learning, inspiration, you don't have a hunger, that initiative and that hunger in your household, that curiosity, that natural love of learning, you need to message me. You need to book a call with me, because we need to talk about this. This can be learned. It can be reignited. It can be overcome. I'm so excited about that, because this is the world that we needs leaders, or the world that we have and the world that we're going towards needs leaders to go out into the world and change the world in their own unique way. We have to have those leaders, those real leaders. And the only way that we're going to get them is to have lifelong learners. Lifelong learners is the key. Lifelong learning forever. And with that, they can learn all of the things that we just talked about, all those skills that are going to keep us relevant, going to keep us competitive, going to keep us successful in the future. All of those things can be learned with from a lifelong learner. A lifelong learner can learn all of those things, because even if they don't have them now, they can get it. I'm going to give you a quick example. So, right now in our household, like I told you, we're having a lot of things going on, and it's actually pretty crazy, because my son's 15, right? So he's actually in scouts and he's ranking up in scouts. He just actually did it last night, so he finished it off. He's ranking up to star. He just did rank up to star in scouts, and so that's a pretty decent rank. He's getting up there on towards his way to eagle, and it's something where he's got to start doing things, like actually, really performing and really getting things done. And so he has to have that initiative and that hunger, and be a lifelong learner in order to be able to do that. He has to love learning, because it's not necessarily all part of our studies in terms of what we're focusing on right now. And it's also, he has to lead his troop, which is really cool. He's in the position where he's leading his troop. So he has to learn a little bit of that. And then on top of that, we've also been in the last couple months training him for promoting to brown belt in Kajikembo, which is a martial art. It's a kind of a mixed martial art, but it is so uh, it is such a big deal, you guys. It is difficult and probably the hardest thing that he's ever done so far. So this is so crazy, because it's bringing up both of these things, right? And this star rank wasn't that big of a deal for me. He had to accomplish some things, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But this brown belt pretest, it's a 2-day pretest, and it's going to test his knowledge. It's going to test his physical abilities, and it's mostly going to test his mental abilities. It's going to test his mental toughness and his ability to persevere, to have and that tenacity and his commitment level to overcoming his limiting beliefs. And we've really, really talked about that a lot. And we used my example a lot because, y'all, I have failed about 100,000 times in the world and I will continue to. I know. And I'm excited about that because that means I'm learning. I learn from my mistakes and I move on. The key is not to make the same mistake twice, right? But I'm a lifelong learner. So I'm learning and I'm hungry. I'm like, bring it on. Okay, I failed. Let's move on. That wasn't a good one, but let's go and let's try it again. Let's do it again and let's kill it, right? Let's get it done. And let's take the information we learned from the failure and let's apply it now. And being able to separate ourselves from that fear of failure and going, okay, I got it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot, especially when our community, our world, or whatever is a lot about in success principles, is a lot about just succeeding and succeeding. And especially when my son is really hard on himself, he puts that pressure on himself of, I don't want to fail, I don't want to fail. And we all don't want to fail. I mean, who wants to fail? But we want to gain the lessons so that we can succeed. And so we've had a lot of conversations about that in our house. And if he wasn't a lifelong learner already, there is literally, because of the culture and the environment we created, I cannot ruin his lifelong learning at this point. I know it. I know for sure. He is a lifelong learner forever. But that's only because of everything that we've done up until now to create that culture and environment where that is, and the mentorship where that is happening all the time. His love of learning is very, very high. And so, because of that, we can teach him, he can learn these skills. He can learn to overcome those fears. He can learn tenacity. He can learn the confidence. He can learn the self discipline, which he's doing in all these different areas. And so, this is super exciting because he's a lifelong learner. He's a lifelong learner. And I'm a lifelong learner. I didn't really love learning through high school and all that. And I didn't, even through college, and I didn't get it back until I was a senior in college. And I was really digging into studying what I wanted to study. And I was so excited about it. I sat back and I was like, dude, this is what I get to do for a living right now is I get to like study things I want to learn about, cool stuff. That's my only job? This is awesome. And I was in my senior year. I was like totally done. And but I realized, man, there's so much amazingness I can learn about. I don't just have to check those boxes. I can become a lifelong learner. And I have loved learning ever since, ever since, ever since. It's been absolutely a joy. And the reason why my son has been able to really push himself out of his comfort zone in a lot of ways. And I'm telling you, this has not been an easy journey for him, but I'm so proud of him because he's making those leaps and he's working on his limiting beliefs. And he's making those moves toward what he wants. And I love that. And because he's a lifelong learner, he can learn all those skills that we talked about and he can work on them and work on them and work on them. Because, right, all those things I talked about, those aren't things you just like, boom, I got it, I'm done, right? Okay, maybe computer skills, but those are always changing. So you're always going to be learning those, right? But all those skills are adaptability, communication, problem solving, critical thinking, discernment, compassion. All of these things we have to work on continually, right? We have to keep growing. So we need to be lifelong learners. If you are not on that track and you're box checking your way through homeschool, let's talk. Book a call with me. It's a free call. Book a call with me, you guys. This is my mission. This is my purpose in the world, to get your family to become leaders that move our world in a better direction. We need that so much today, you guys. I get so emotional when I talk about this because it's so much part of who I am. And I want this for your family. I'm so excited about being able to share these principles and this message with you. But let's create a whole bunch of lifelong learners. Let's create all these lifelong learners that go out and be leaders instead of box checking their way to becoming followers, right? Box checkers actually, they think that all they're looking for is somebody to tell them what are the next boxes I have to check. Maybe they seek out boxes too, but they don't necessarily have all those skills, right? All those skills are things that are not box checking skills. I love that we can help our kids grow past box checking into lifelong learning and become these leaders that go out and change the world for the better. I hope I get to talk with you because we have tons of fun when we chat on the phone. I love meeting parents and new homeschooling parents and veteran homeschooling parents and just wanting to make their situation and their example and their homeschool better for their kids so that they can get to that end goal of being a lifelong learner. So let's talk, let's chat. And I hope that you now understand that lifelong learning is the key to gaining all of those skills that those kids are going to need. Okay, so all those skills are important, but lifelong learning ensures that they'll get those skills because we can't teach them all of them before they leave our home. But we can make sure that if they're lifelong learners, that they will eventually learn those. Hopefully. Because they'll want to, right? They'll have that hunger. All right, you guys, it was tons of fun sharing with you today. I've got a lot on my heart today about what we can do for our future world, and I know that your kids are going to be part of that and going to be the leaders to get us there. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.